Hi friends, welcome to IIBS IAS Academy YouTube channel. I am Ashok, Assistant Professor at IIBS IAS Academy, and I have been training from UPSC aspirants since the past 4 years. In this YouTube channel, we will be covering all the issues important for UPSC Civil Services Examination and also for the state public service examinations. Please do like, share, comment and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you. Hi, the topic we are going to discuss today is Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill of 2020. So in this topic, we have to understand first what is assisted reproductive technology. So assisted reproductive technologies are, if you are not going to have babies in a natural way, so you have to approach the scientific methods of having the baby like artificial insemination or in vitro fertilization. So these kind of technologies are called assisted reproductive technologies. To regulate the assisted reproductive technologies, the government has come up with the bill called Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill of 2020. So we have to understand the importance of Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill. Right? The first one, ART bill. Right? The Union Cabinet has approved the Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Bill, and here we have to understand why it has to regulate. Because in India it has become a hub and exploitation is happening. To prevent the exploitation, the government has brought this bill to regulate the assisted reproductive technologies and also to bring all the laboratories which are performing the assisted reproductive technologies to the mainstream. Right? To monitor medical procedures used to assist people to achieve pregnancy. So this is ART, and ART bill of 2020 along with the surrogacy regulation bill. So we are going to discuss the surrogacy regulation bill as well, and the medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill. So along with this, it has brought the surrogacy regulation bill and also medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill to bring more rights to the female individuals. So because they are going to undergo the pregnancy, and the laws which we are going to make has to assist them or to be in favor of them, right? So to bring them, we have brought the medical termination of pregnancy amendment bill of 2020, or 3 proposed legislations which create environment of safeguard women's reproductive rights. So the reason why we have brought these particular bills is to protect the reproductive rights of the women and address changing social contexts and technological advancements. Right? With the evolving society, the laws has to change because our understanding to different things actually change with the time. So because of this, because of the changing social context and also the advancements of the technological innovations, so we have brought these particular bills to protect the rights of the women. So why we need the bill? The most important question, right? So whichever the topic you may prepare for UPSC, the question why is very vital, and you have to start concentrating on the topic, on the question why, right? And India has one of the highest growth in ART centers, right? We have seen the growth in the ART centers which are not regulated as per the government so far, and the number of ART cycles performed every year are really high, right? So this has to be brought into the mainstream. The government has to know how many ARTs are actually happening, right? And the clinics in India offer nearly all the ART services. So what are the different ART services India is providing? The first one, right, is gamete donation, like the sperm donation or the ovum donation, and the next one, intrauterine insemination, right? So artificially inseminating, you are sending the semen through the uterus, and in vitro fertilization, right? And intracytoplasmic sperm injection, so injecting the sperm directly into the ovum, and pre-implantation genetic diagnosis, PGD, right? So what is this? We have to diagnose the genetic material of the egg, of the sperm and also the ovum. So when the zygote has actually happened, how the genetic material is actually present, because the baby which is going to born by in vitro fertilization should not have any genetical diseases. So we have to analyze. And the gestational surrogacy. So after in vitro fertilization, what you will be doing? You will be implanting that particular blastocyst, we say, into the surrogate mother. So that one. So all these particular services are being provided in India. And the other reason, no standardization of protocols were being maintained in India. There is no proper standardized protocol. Government did not release any standardized protocol which has to be followed for these assisted reproductive technologies, and reporting is very inadequate, right? So how many are happening? So what are their well-being? So everything is totally inadequate. So we have brought a bill on ART, Assisted Reproductive Technologies. And we need to regulate the assisted reproductive technology services is mainly to protect the affected women and the children from exploitation, which is very important, right? Because right against exploitation is one of the fundamental rights. It is one of the fundamental rights and women cannot be exploited. But here with the assisted reproductive technologies, women are being exploited a lot. So to prevent the exploitation, we are bringing this into the mainstream. And the oocyte donor needs to be supported by insurance cover, right? Whoever the person donating the oocyte has to have this insurance cover because there will be many hormonal changes that are happening. Protected from the multiple embryo implantations. They have to be protected from multiple embryo implantations. That means if I want to be a surrogate mother, technically I cannot be, but if I were a woman and if I want to be a surrogate mother, so I cannot go every time for money. Right, because the women are being exploited because of the poverty in India, they are being paid to carry the children and the children are being taken away. So to prevent this from happening, from stopping the women being exploited, so what the government regulation has happened, what the government regulation has brought, so only for once I can be a surrogate mother. Only for once in the entire lifetime I can be the surrogate mother, so that I cannot be exploited. And children born through the assisted reproductive technology should be provided all rights equivalent to the biological children. So there may be a chance if the ART is not regulated, every children being born by the assisted reproductive technology or artificial insemination or any such way, so they may not have the equal rights and privileges being born by the parents, right? So that's why, like every biological child, all the rights will be equal to the babies born through the assisted reproductive technologies. And cryopreservation of sperm, oocyte and embryo by the ART banks needs to be regulated. So how the sperms, oocytes and embryos are being protected, and also very important question is about the privacy, right, of the donors. So everything has to be regulated, and the bill intends to make pre-genetic implantation testing mandatory, right? So it is making everything mandatory. So in that sense, so what we are talking about, so for every assisted reproductive technology, if you are having a zygote, that has to be sent to the genetical testing. Only when in the genetical test we have this conclusion that all the genes are well placed and expressing, only then we will grow that into a baby, right? That has to be mandated. And what is the aim of this particular bill? The next one. The aim is to regulate the assisted reproductive technology services in the country. So it is simple. The aim is very simple, to regulate ART. And consequently, infertile couples will be more ensured confident about the ethical practices in the ART, which is very important. Ethical practices that are being performed. So how the ART is being performed, whether it is ethical or not, right? So that thing is the prime objective of Assisted Reproductive Technology Bill of 2020. And what are assisted reproductive technologies? As we already discussed, as we have the slight knowledge of it, assisted reproductive technology is used to treat infertility, which is very important. If I am not going to have babies, if my sperm motility is not so great, if my sperm count is not so great, what will I do? I will take the sperms of the other person, right? So if I want to have a baby, so in that way, to treat the infertility, we can go through the assisted reproductive technologies. It includes fertility treatments that handle both woman egg and the man sperm, right? So what is this treating infertility means? Treating infertility means all the treatments including the fertility of man and also the sperm. And when you talk about the assisted reproductive technologies, we have this in vitro fertilization, embryo transfer technique, right? In the laboratory, we will be taking the sperm and egg, and in the artificial environment, so we will be fusing it into the zygote, right? We will be fusing it into the zygote. In vitro fertilization, embryo transfer technique, and the gamete intrafallopian transfer. That means, so we have the female reproductive system, right? So these are the fallopian tubes. These are the fallopian tubes, and the egg will be waiting in one of the tubes, right? Egg will be waiting in one of the tubes. So what you will be doing? So you will be transferring the sperm to the fallopian tubules. And zygote intra-fallopian transfer, the next one. Directly the zygote which is actually formed will be transferred to the fallopian tube, so that from the fallopian tube it will come to the uterus and it will implant here, and the baby will be generated. The baby will be developed. And the frozen embryo transfer, right? The frozen embryos can also be transferred. So these are the techniques which are included in the assisted reproductive technologies. And what are the provisions of the bill? So which is very important for prelims examination, which is very important for the prelims examination as well as the mains in that case, right? So we have to know the provisions of the bill. So in the when you are talking about the provisions of the bill, national board will be constituted. So when you are talking about regulating, there has to be a regulating board. So here we have the national board, right? So what are the functions of the national board? So it shall lay down the code of conduct to be observed. So what is the procedure when you are talking about ethical prospects? So there has to be a proper code of conduct. There has to be a specific protocol. That protocol will be given by the national board, right? To set the minimum standards of physical infrastructure. So when you are talking about a lab, so minimum infrastructure has to be there. That minimum, what is the minimum infrastructure? That will be given by the national board. The laboratory and diagnostic equipment and the expert manpower to be employed by the clinics and also the sperm banks or the egg banks, right? And the next one, the next body is the state and union territories shall also constitute a state board and also state authorities. State boards in the states and union territories, we have the state authorities, right? Within 3 months of the notification of the central governments. So whenever the central government notifies, within the 3 months, they have to constitute the state boards and the state authorities. And the state board shall have the responsibility to follow the policies of the plans laid by the national board. So whatever the policies that were actually laid by the national board, so those all things are to be followed by the state boards and the state authorities. The next, provisions. The bill also provides for the national registry and registration authority to maintain the central database and assist the national board in its functions. So we have to establish a national registry who are actually going for surrogacy. So that we have to know. For that, registry has to be maintained. If you do not maintain a registry, so women can be exploited because there won't be any data whether they have gone for the surrogacy previously or not. And the bill intends to make the pre-genetic implantation testing mandatory. We already discussed about that point. And commercial surrogacy will be prohibited, right? Totally, when you are talking about the surrogacy, commercial surrogacy is totally prohibited in India, right? Because the women are being exploited, right? So now the surrogacy we are going to focus is the altruistic surrogacy. That we will be discussing in the surrogacy bill, right? That we will be discussing in the surrogacy bill. And the sale and purchase of the human embryos and the gametes are also prohibited. The sale and purchase, you cannot make money by donating the sperms or ovum. The sale and purchase of the embryos are also prohibited. And ethical surrogacy to the Indian married couple and Indian origin married couple and the Indian single woman will be allowed on fulfillment of the certain conditions. The conditions will be laid by the national board, right? So who can go for the surrogacy? The Indian married couple, right? Indian married couple and Indian origin married couple, right? Indian origin people, right, who are staying abroad, so they can go for the surrogacy. And Indian single woman, only widow or a divorcee, only widow or a divorcee. So unmarried people do not have the privilege to go for the assisted reproductive technologies, right? Will be allowed on the fulfillment of a certain conditions, right? So these are the provisions. And if there are any violations to this particular thing, the government is laying down the regulations so that everybody will follow. What if you do not follow those particular regulations? That we have to know. The bill proposes for the stringent punishment for those practicing sex selection, right? Even now it is totally illegal, right? You cannot select the sex of a child. So just because you are knowing the baby that is being born is a female, you cannot kill it, right? Sex selection is totally illegal in India. And the sale of human embryos or the gametes, as we have said, because it will lead to the exploitation, and running agencies or the rackets or organization for such unlawful practices, right? We cannot run the agencies or the middlemen or the rackets or the organizations to facilitate these particular things. And the bill has to has a provision that those involved in the trafficking and the sale of the embryos will be fined about 10 lakhs at first instance, and in the second instance the person could be imprisoned up to 12 years, right? He can be imprisoned up to 12 years. This is the punishment, right? Thank you. If you have any queries on this particular topic, please put down in the comments below. I'll be explaining in a separate video. And also if you want me to make any of the UPSC topics as a video, so I'll be making them as well. Thank you. Please do like the video, and if you have any queries, please put down in the comments below and we'll be making videos on those areas. And please click on the bell icon and do subscribe to our channel. Thank you.